the immediate past Minister for Education. You've appeared before this committee. You've been a member of this committee 12 years previously. This is your 13th year. You're quite well known to this committee and to the House. Now, is there anything more the committee should know? Tell us very briefly anything more we must know.
Thank you, Chair. Like you said, I've been a member of this House since 7 January 2009. I've served on various committees in this House: Environment, Science and Technology, Health, Special Budgets committees in this House. Mr. Chairman, everything that I want to say or add is already on my CV, so I'll keep it like that. Thank you.
All right.
Yes, okay.
Honorable Fulera, you may ask your one question of the minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Honorable Nominee. I have one question, and I'm interested in local content in the energy sector. The local content participation in the Ghanaian energy sector has been growing steadily over the years. I'm wondering, though, whether there is any way that in the event that you are confirmed, what you will do to increase this steady growth in this area to enable more Ghanaians participate in this industry so that we can help grow the economy locally.
Thank you, Chair. I think the energy industry has a lot of the legislation needed to enable local content, like you said. Our energy industry, Mr. Speaker, Chairman, is not a very old industry, and we need to facilitate the training of Ghanaian businesses to be able to participate in the industry. Our understanding of local content is just supplying food or water, but owning the assets and the resources as well. And we collectively as a country must endeavor to ensure that most people are trained well and certified to be able to play our industry. And government as well must support Ghanaians in owning part of these resources that the good Lord has given us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Honorable.
Thank you very much, Minister. Congratulations, Minister. The first question is on Tema Oil Refinery, which is a national asset saddled with indebtedness and some inefficiencies in its operations. Petrol and diesel refined at all currently has a high sulfur content of about 1,500 ppm, as against the world standard of 50 ppm or lower. It currently operates at a lower capacity than the 45,000 barrels per day because of the fire outbreak in 2017. What is your assessment of the refinery as Minister-Designate, and when approved, God willing, what will you do to change the situation at all? Thank you.
Thank you. Before even this noble house passes the to be able to assume the position of a Minister of Energy. TOR and its crippling debts and its infrastructure issues, equipment issues, it's all over. And we need, as a country, to only know one thing. Since the Fourth Republic, every president has talked about value addition of our natural resource. It just so happens that the last natural resource the good Lord gave us, which is oil, we already have a refinery to be able to add value. But since, interestingly, since we started mining oil commercially, the refinery seems to be losing its ability to do its work. So we should collectively, apart from the debt overhang, which is nearly $250 million, we should collectively decide that we don't want to lose TOR. We have to find the right partnerships, managerial, infrastructure, equipment, to enable TOR to work, and also invite other refineries into the system to make it even better. But like you said, the challenges are everywhere. People owe them, they are not able to collect. They owe them, they also owe people who are on their necks trying to even take part of their business. So we have to collectively sit down, and if I'm passed by your noble house, it is one of the most engaging situations on our hands.
Thank you. Ghana and the USA, through the Millennium Compact Agreement, introduced the PSP into our electricity distribution. PDS was the winner of the tender process and took over ECG. But this takeover was abrogated by government. Do you believe in the private sector participation in electricity distribution? And when approved, will you start a new process to return ECG to be run by a private company? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Since the year 2000 or 2001, every government that has been formed in this country has tackled the ECG menace or ECG saga with a privatization in mind, from President Kufuor, President Mills, President Mahama, and then Nana Akufo-Addo. All of them have used one type of privatization, external entities probably owning from the top ECG and managing ECG. There are different aspects of privatization we also probably have to look at. Outsourcing the last mile of ECG might be a workable one. And also making sure that when it gets into the hands of Ghanaians, we manage it well. We have privatized, like you just said, to PDS. And I just heard honorable members talking about the amount of money PDS was able to collect, even still having our money. But when you go there now, one of the problems is lack of resources for them to work, especially money. So maybe we have to tackle the privatization differently and invite private sector players on the last round and see how it goes. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair, the last one is on electricity tariff. In most developed countries, industries pay less for electricity and residential facilities do pay more. In Ghana, the reverse is the case. This has made the energy cost to industries very high and their products and services less competitive. With the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, Ghanaian companies have to compete with companies that have cheaper energy costs. When approved as minister, what will you do to help Ghanaian industries to be competitive in that sector? Thank you. That's my last question, Chairman.
Thank you. Energy is the lifeblood of every industrialized country, or a country that needs to industrialize or wants to or intends to industrialize. If we don't solve our energy crisis in the form of huge debts, we would not progress, especially as you mentioned, we are now members of the African Continental Free Trade Area. The factors of production are the same everywhere. And if you have your neighboring countries even beating you to it as to the cost of energy, then you are in dire straits. So we have to look. When you look at our tariffs, we probably have the highest tariff in the West Africa region. But all the companies are complaining that they don't get enough and that the tariff is not cost reflective. Meanwhile, at the end here, we seem to charge higher than anybody. So we really have to unbundle the tariff situation, make it more transparent, and see the factors that are contributing to lack of resources for the sector to help us. Thank you.
Eric.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Honorable nominee, on March 2019, the government of the Republic of Ghana, under the leadership of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, caused ECG to hand over the management and operations of its power distribution to PDS. 5 months later, precisely on the 30th of July 2019, the government suspended the contract with PDS on the basis of their inability to provide proper payment security as provided in the concession agreement. What, in your view, prevented the government of Ghana, under the leadership of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, from exhaustively examining all the relevant documents before handing over such valuable assets to PDS, and what was the economic cost to Ghana?
Thank you. I might not be able to tell you the economic cost in the sense that I don't know of any losses in the interim in that 8 months. But like everything else, if the marriage doesn't work, partners may leave. And if false pretenses might have gained you a favor, if it is found, you are punished for it. I'm sure if Ghana was supposed to give certain conditions or fulfill certain conditions, and Ghana couldn't have or was not able to do it, PDS would be the first to have run to court. We shouldn't take it lightly that the accusation of representing your payment guarantee with a false note, if it is correct, is a grievous sign as telling somebody that you own a building that is not yours to go and secure a loan. So I have to settle down there when you pass me to really interrogate the matter that happened. I wouldn't like to give a hasty remark or conclusion or answer to yours because you deserve better. So please pass me and I'll get back to you.
Honorable nominee, you are being moved. You were at the Ministry of Education. Now you are heading to the Ministry of Energy, a ministry that is wallowing in debt. You recall, in November 2020, the independent power producers entreated government to pay 80% of the 1 billion debt. Otherwise, their businesses will collapse. You recall that during the erstwhile NDC government, Parliament of the Republic of Ghana passed the Energy Sector Levy Act and imposed taxes intentioned to pay off the debt. Your government, on assumption of office, securitized receivables from the energy sector levy for 15 years to pay off the debt. But as we speak, we are aware that the debt is ballooning, and we are told that if we are not careful, by 2023, it will be difficult to even run the sector. In fact, as we speak, the sector, in terms of debt, is verging on collapse. How do you propose to resuscitate this very important sector to engender economic growth in the coming years?
Thank you. Basically, the problem is this. If all the money that we pay for our utility bill is given to the providers of the service, the distributors, the wheelers or transmitters, the energy producers, and their fuel cost, we don't collect enough to meet our requirements. And like I said to the honorable member, at the end of the selling point, we pay more than everybody in this country, in the West Africa sub-region. But from the beginning point, we seem to have higher costs than everybody as well. The pay or take contracts, the excess power that we pay for in a year, which we don't consume, is more than $500 million. So we need to, like I said, sit down passionately with everybody, unbundle everything, expose ourselves to IPPs, the transmitters, and sit down and say, hey, if we don't change, we don't reform, we don't agree on certain parameters, we would all collapse. We will all collapse. It's frankly so. Like you said, by 2023, if nothing else dramatically is done, the debt situation will hit 12.5 billion. And it's serious. So we have to sit down, cool heads with everybody. You cannot overfeed, oversuckle, or you can't produce more milk than energy you can take in. So we have to look at it. If you pass me, it is one of the issues that I think we all have to think about.
The cost of acquiring a meter from ECG is very high in the rural communities. I recall when, in November, somebody contacted me to ensure that he gets a meter. Contacted. I engaged the officers in charge, and the cost was estimated around 600 Ghana cedis. How can an ordinary Ghanaian in a rural community be able to afford this, knowing very well that impressive and effective economic life is anchored on electricity? If you don't have electricity, life is something else. What do you think can be done to make some of these basic things affordable to the ordinary Ghanaian?
Thank you. I think we have to think about things differently. We have been buying meters from those who sell meters. Some companies produce here, some also import the meters. ECG or Ministry of Energy buys these meters, and they are not able to buy enough. What about we thinking, changing things differently? Zoning various big areas and giving it to on concession basis to meter providers. Asking them to provide the meter for all the place and get their charges through the prepayment system. Definitely. We have to think about the solutions differently, because the situation that has existed in the last 20 years is not working. And that solution is simply ECG or Ministry of Energy buying, and they never have enough to buy, money enough to buy enough to stop, to fulfill their obligations. And it's not working. So we have to think about different ways of getting the meters. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Yes, Honorable FJJ.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Honorable, congratulations. I think in your earlier statement, when the first speaker put a question on you, on our energy efficiency, you underscored the fact that with our current industrialization drive, the is the need to have the right energy mix, and it should be efficient. May I know your stand on the addition of nuclear energy to Ghana's energy mix? Nuclear.
My stand.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't think my stand matters very much here because the government of the Republic of Ghana since 2000, when the Hyperbolic Committee was commissioned by President Kufuor, every government that has come has promoted or pushed the agenda of nuclear power. We currently are at a stage that we've gone past the first stage where we have produced a comprehensive baseline report. Currently, I'm informed that where we are, we must select a vendor. The selection of the vendor may mean so many things. It will decide on the technology, and it will decide on the training that we can give Ghanaians to come and manage the system. And there's a lag phase with that, because the training takes some time. So if we don't select the vendor clearly and very early, it will delay the progress. But I think that we are at a time when we've all decided that probably we should try nuclear power. It is the safest and cleanest form of energy.
Thank you very much. Honorable Nominee, the discovery of oil in commercial quantities have actually attracted a number of Ghanaians, both home and abroad, to pursue courses in oil and gas. My observation is the supply side far exceeds the demand, either because they don't acquire the right skills in oil and gas, or the market size is too small to absorb them. Honorable Minister-Designate, if you share in my observation, if given the nod, how do you intend to address this inequality in the sector to ensure that Ghanaians trained in oil and gas will have enhanced opportunities to secure jobs? Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think we are at a stage where the supply side and demand sides are going in opposite direction. I do recall at Ministry of Education realizing that over 1,000 Ghanaians were trained in oil and gas. I do know that the oil and gas capacity building project contract is still going on. What we may have to understand that a lot of people train in oil and gas, but not in the right areas where they can get probably employment. A capacity building program, accelerated capacity building program in the oil and gas industry, probably hasn't also done much for us. I know of a lot of technical institutions and universities that the oil and gas sector has supported. But to be truth be told, nobody will go and put a welder on his rig, a $1 billion rig, who is not certified. And that certification is just like professionalization courses. The fact that your institution is not accredited, when you go there and get the best training, you wouldn't have the certificate to enable you to participate in the industry. So I think discussions must be had that we might need a dedicated institution that will resource with the right equipment, but also get the necessary accreditation for that industry or for that institution. Other than that, the jobs that are there, that are always there, will be played by foreigners. And Ghanaians will not enjoy, irrespective of the local content. If you don't have the certification, you cannot enjoy. So that is one area we have to be getting accredited institutions to train and certify the right people for the industry.
Thank you, Honorable Minister-Designate. What I want to follow up with is the question that what exactly will you do to ensure that we get the right, people pursue the right discipline and then the certification that you require?
Thank you. I'm coming from one ministry where the government agenda was a technical vocational education and training, and this necessary certification. So I'll work with the industry to get the right accreditation in-house. There are big institutions that have provided the certified training, like Siemens. If you do get a Siemens accredited facility here, then everybody who is going through that facility will get the right certification. As we speak, we don't have anything like that, and that is where the disjunct is. And that is what we must pursue. Thank you.
Okay, Honorable Agala.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, Chairman. My question flows directly from Article 35(7) of the Constitution. That provision makes it imperative for governments to continue and execute projects and programs commenced by previous governments. Now, I'd like to relate this to electricity coverage in our country. Specifically, the Upper East region is lagging behind in terms of connectivity to the national grid. And so in 2014, 2015, 2016, conscious efforts was made to connect communities in our part of the country to the national grid. I can cite numerous examples. If you go to the Bulsa North constituency, where I'm MP, several communities were beginning to see some progress in terms of works that were being done. And then in 2016, power changed and the new Patriotic Party government took over the reins of government. Since then, works have stalled from 2016 till date. Now, Dr. Prempeh, if you get the nod, what do you intend to do to ensure that abandoned projects in the Upper East region sees the day of light? I am particularly concerned because the record of this government for the past 4 years in terms of electricity coverage has not been too impressive. We added only about 1.3% to our national average. If we just oppose that with the achievements we chalked from 2008, we're at 56%, but by 2016, the figure shot up to about 83%. What that means is that we need some policy orientation when you get to the ministry to ensure that we achieve universal coverage in the country. So what do you intend to do?
Thank you, honorable colleague. I would like to describe it as a government's abysmal or a government's behavior. I come from a region where 4 years ago there was electrification project going on in certain areas, where 4 years it has stalled. Yes, in Ashanti region, just as Upper East region, rural electrification projects have stalled. It's not because government intends. It's because the more you electrify, you leave out the harder to reach areas where it is very difficult to reach because you go and there are only 5 huts, and it's a very far distance also to go. So we need to mobilize more, and we need to introduce in the meantime off-grid programs to support those programs till we can electrify over these long areas. When I spoke to NETCO, 64% of their customers are on lifeline, really meaning electricity is just one light up for I don't know, for sleeping or something. So NETCO is dead in that it doesn't get even the resources from its operation, and it covers seriously wide areas than even in the south. So we have to look at introducing off-grid solutions to some of these rural communities and gradually take electricity. From 2000, as far as we recall in this house, all our electrification, or most of our electrification projects, have been done through loans, or what we call the SHEP, self-help electrification projects. And government hasn't stopped it so far. But sometimes prices and things affect these programs, and contractors are not able to deliver as they promised in these contracts. So we will have to look at it and make sure.
Chairman, sorry. So, Minister, currently we are 83%. We must have a national ambition to achieve 100%. When you become minister, will you work towards the attainment of universal access to electricity, particularly taking cognizance of Wiaga, Sandema, Wale area? Response
exactly my response, yes.
You're done. Very well.
Chairman, we're going to
Yes.
ask the minister how many years? We are
thank you very much.
83%. We are in 2021. Give us a time period that Ghanaians should expect that as minister, you would have achieved universal access to rural electrification, up in the 83%. Time limits.
I think universal access for electricity is part of our goals, the sustainable development goals. But it may not necessarily be great electricity or great energy. As I said, it includes a lot of solar systems. The first 2 megawatt solar system was in Upper East, around Navrongo. So the different mix, that's what we are heading towards, by energy for all by 2030.
Yes, Honorable Susu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Honorable nominee, one of the general criticisms of your party by watchers and partakers in the industry has been that in the last 4 years, you have not been able to embark on any major project that is aimed at adding some megawatts of power to the existing capacity that we have in the country. Now, the only major effort that has begun is when government signed $200 million agreement to construct a 100 megawatts tidal power plant at Ada for 24 months with sea base. However, as at today, no activity has been undertaken to realize this promise that your government undertook to begin. Can you assure the people of Ghana and indeed this committee that when confirmed, you would take some definite steps to adding to our generation capacity?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, in the last 4 years, our problem has not been generation capacity. In fact, we have plants that are ready to produce here that we don't even consume. We have about 5.2 gigawatts of installed power, and at peak time using less than 3 gigawatts. The problem to encourage more people to come into the system to generate is also to ensure that you generate at the rate we can pay for. And it's all part of what we have to do as the energy sector. Because if nobody would come to put a plant there, but others' plants are not working because of high cost, and also they claim they are not getting the cost-reflective tariffs. So we have to, like I said, the word I want to use is to unbundle the whole power sector and start from the first basis and reconstruct it, including probably renegotiating of our pay or take, or pay and take tariffs and everything else.
Are there some timelines?
That's why I'm saying that in the next 3 years, we are not short of generation. That is even in situ. But by 2025, we should be generating and adding more of the mixture too. We have abundance of fuel in the west part of the country that belongs to Ghana. But still, we are marked in bad contracts that we have to renegotiate. And I'm sure as soon as, and it's already started, I'm not the one going to start it. It's already started already. And once we get on top of that, I think Ghana can be a net exporter of even energy in the ECOWAS sub-region. Thank you.
Honorable Gisela, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A lot of towns and villages without good community lighting are a breeding ground for crimes and other vices. I'm doing so. A lot of towns and villages without good community lighting are a breeding ground for vices and other miscreant activities and are generally unsafe. Occasionally, streetlights are shared before elections as enticements to the populace for votes. Some are stored, some are removed when people do not vote for the people who offered them. What will be your pragmatic policy direction on street lighting in the country, especially to curb crimes and so on?
We have to look at the street lighting issue. The distribution companies claim we don't pay enough for street lights. That's their first complaint. 2, street lights are not metered. And they don't know how much they consume. And 3, the levy for street lighting is not given enough. 4, the distribution companies basically are not involved in doing the street lighting projects, but are asked to maintain. They claim it doesn't help them plan very well in the new settlements or peri-urban settlements on how to engage them. We have to look at the whole street lighting. In Accra or Kumasi, we always see cars repairing street lights and changing street lights and street bulbs. And within a few weeks or months, the streets are dark. I don't really know if it's I think it was President Mahama who lighted the N1 motorway, and within a twinkle of an eye, all the lights bulbs were gone. I don't know.
Minister, we found out what went wrong.
Is that
within a twinkle of an eye, all the lights were off?
Yes, we're slowly.
Have you found out before coming here what happened?
No, that's what I'm saying, that we have to sit down when I get
I have information to share.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
The people steal the cables from underground. On the motorway, I know that for a fact. As they were putting the lights on, people were removing the cables from under there.
Mr. Chairman, you are right. When you look at the motorway, is it the last 20 years, it's been relighted about 6 times. So even if such major roads, people are able to steal, then I can just imagine the other areas. Maybe we have to look at solar. Maybe we have to look at other things, but we have to really look at the whole street lights and the phenomenon of what is going on in the country. I don't understand what is happening, because even where we go and light, within 3 weeks it's gone. So it makes it very difficult to wanting to extend, and then extending and you never reach where you want to. And that is the problem that we have confronting us, and we have to look at it very well.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I was actually looking for a solution, because the motorway is one thing, that is an urban area. In the rural communities, they are really needed by the rural folk. And there was a project some time ago of lighting, I think this was the central region, of lighting the communities by the highway, the main junctions where a lot of people pick up vehicles and so on and so forth. So we are tasking you to find interesting solutions to this, because lighting is very important. The second question I would like to ask is, as former Minister of Education, a lot of the public schools are not wired and they don't have power. So in the evenings, when children do not really have a space to even learn, to do some revision and so on and so forth, you see them playing in the neighborhood and so on and so forth. But is it possible that now that you're moving from education to power, where you know that the public schools don't have electricity, you have an innovative solution for them so that they have power and the children at least can make use of those classrooms in the evening for revision and so on, so that those children in the rural areas can match the children in the urban areas in terms of, capacity. Thank you.
Thank you. It is very true, but things are changing. You are right. Most of our classrooms were not lighted or not sealed. And even when you go up north, you wonder how the kids can stay in the classroom at the peak of the sun and study. But gradually things are changing. And I know that there's a huge renewable energy project involving schools that government wants to bring up so that we can provide a bit of light with some battery backup to see if we can do in the schools. The schools also are not very secure. And sometimes when you put in these things, there are communities, people go and vandalize the classrooms, even defecating left and right over school property and things like that. So we have to look. And the development of schools in this country, we have to look at it. Most development of school structures are done on the blind side of the Ministry of Education. Yes, because most development of school structures are not done by Ministry of Education. Sometimes they are done by the local assemblies, especially for basic schools, where it is the job of the local assemblies. And sometimes they get to a stage and they can't develop sports standard buildings and a lot of things. So we have to, that is why now an agency exists that before you establish a school, you have to come for the necessary permits to ensure that you use the necessary building materials to build those schools, because it has been very, very haphazard for a very long time. And we have to change that. We have to change that.
Mr. Jerry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Honorable nominee, on PDS, before the termination of the contract between Government of Ghana and PDS had already collected some monies. If you are giving the nod, will you take steps to recover these funds?
Thank you. I do know that there's an escrow account that some monies were collected into, and that is the subject of a court issue. So we hope that it will end so that we can reconcile the books very well.
Yes, Honorable.
That'll be all for you.
No, Honorable Norton. The name is eluding me.
Most grateful, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, let me very quickly clarify these matters on the nominee CV just for our records. Page 3, under capacity building programs attended, the first and second, I see the same month and the same year, all at the Harvard University John F. Kennedy School of Government, Executive Education, September 2016, September 2016. Are we talking about different days in September? Can the nominee clarify that, please?
I don't have a copy of my CV, but if there are different courses, sometimes they can be 1 week courses and in the same month. You can have 2 different courses. But if the same course, then it's a play.
Well, since you don't have a copy of your CV here, I think I will move on so that the clerk and the nominee can look at my concerns later. I want to begin with matters to do with the nominee's temperament and public pronouncements as Minister for Education. On the 17th of September 2019, when there was a major crisis with the computerized school selection and placement system, The nominee went on an Accra-based radio station, Asempa FM, and in what was reported, as I hold in my hands, the Ghana Web publication, and I also have the audio, the nominee said, and I quote, "We opened a center at the Independence Square to address the needs of Ghanaians who want to go to school. But some evil people have decided to pay 20 Ghana cedis and 50 Ghana cedis to people to go there and stage fainting and collapse. Yesterday, some of the collapses were fake. I'm even wondering why they brought little kids to the center." The nominee continued, "I can tell you for sure that it was John Mahama who bars people to come and create confusion to give the government a bad name," unquote. Did the nominee actually say these words? And does he stand by them?
Yes, I said those words.
Do you have evidence that former President Mahama bars parents and students to the Independence Square just to make the government unpopular?
I'm sure if the committee will bring President Mahama here, I can ask a few questions for him to say he did it.
If the nominee can be audible, please. I didn't hear that.
I said if Chair can bring His Excellency, the former President here, I can ask the questions to show that probably he was involved.
I cannot bring him here, so if you have any answer to that, I would like to hear it for the record.
Mr. Chair, say what? I don't have any evidence for him as we speak.
No. What evidence are you looking for? Did you say those words?
Yeah. I said those.
Do you regret making those comments?
You said?
Do you regret making those comments? Do you have evidence? That's what he's seeking to appreciate.
Do I regret making those comments?
Yes.
Or maybe I'll make them differently next time. Yeah.
Do you regret making them? Words. If you don't have evidence, then that is a false accusation against the high office of the land. Do you regret that?
I said yes. I'll use different words.
Thank you.
Still on the nominee's temperament and pronouncements, which are largely being confirmed at this hearing, I hold in my hands a November 14, 2017 daily graphic publication under the caption, "Professor Nana Opoku Agyeman was a disgrace as minister. Napo." Very unprintable language used against the venerable Professor Nana Opoku Agyeman. I'm not too sure, for the respect of those who are watching us, that I want to repeat them, but the nominee knows what he said on that day, 14th November 2017. Does the nominee have any regrets, or does he continue to stand by these uncharitable and unprintable words on his predecessor? And for the record, the basis for that, he said that the minister, in her handing over notes, left a number of outstanding commitments: feeding grants to colleges of education, 36 million, feeding grants to special schools, 4.7 million, SHS subsidy, 24 million, progressively free senior high school, 33 million.
Thank you. That statement was made in the context, and that whole context has not been shown. The context, Mr. Chairman, was the fact that before the launching of the free senior high school, my predecessor had gone on air took claim that they didn't see any line item in the budget, and that it's a lie, and that we are hoodwinking Ghanaians before the launching of the Free Senior High School. Immediately after the launching of the Free Senior High School, she had gone back on air to say that Free Senior High School was started by him herself with Progressive Free Senior High School. And it is in that context that when the question I put, because I was having a discussion with somebody, that I said that other ministers who had just left are not talking. And I actually, at that time, I used Honorable Secretary as an example, that they are not coming directly at those who are coming after them. Because if I go through what has happened in Oyeho handing over, then it is a disgrace to education. That phrase was not in Professor Opoku's person at all. I've never said anything against the person, but that same phrase I've used about 3 times. That when you look at the context of things, then it is a disgrace. She is a disgrace to education because of her former background. I've never used it on a person. I mean, the tenure in the ministry is what I said. And in alluding to some of those things, I did say that when I looked at the handing over notes, apart from what had happened, because my statement was that if you started free SHS, then why were you asking me that where is the policy document? That was it. But I'm sure that the words are harsh, people, and I do apologize if it hurts.
Is the nominee able to confirm to this committee that he left outstanding commitments at the Ministry of Education?
Commitment in terms of please.
Commitment in terms of 840 buses not fully paid for, 840 pickups not fully paid for, 250 buses not fully paid for, the 20 STEM centers not fully paid for.
Thank you. The buses and pickups are catered for under the GET Fund. And the STEM centers are catered for under the social program by Ministry of Finance. None of them is on the books of the Ministry of Education.
Are you suggesting that the GET Fund is not an agency under the Ministry of Education?
It is an independent agency with its own trustees who are responsible, because in the handing over notes, we never saw GET Fund's liabilities or assets. In fact, when GET Fund came to this house in 2017, if you do recall, it came up with even IPCs that had been left for them, over 800 million that had not been paid. Subsequently, that's why one of the reasons we went onto the bond market. So GET Fund liabilities are GET Fund liabilities. They are sued in court, not the ministry goes to defend them. And like I said, people have sued GET Fund to retrieve their monies. It is not on the books of the Ministry of Education.
Are you aware that all the items you list here and describe the ministers, the former minister's tenure as an embarrassment and a disgrace are all GET Fund liabilities?
Please, none of them is a GET Fund liabilities. The buses that I spoke of, 80 million, had to be paid by Ministry of Finance. It was never on any GET Fund books.
In your own list here, I have GET Fund debt, 3.7 billion. I can show you your own statement. It's here. You said it yourself. GET Fund debt.
I said
GET Fund debt. It's here. Your own words. You should be asking yourself. You said it. I have transcribed your interview, and that's what you said.
GET Fund does give money to ministries specifically. And sometimes there's a time frame where they don't bring the money. They give money to support Ghana Education Service as well. That is catered for in the ministry's budget. So those are the debts. Ghana Education Service. Those are the debts. I'm not sure about GET Fund owing only 3.7 million.
Well, I believe that with the hindsight, with the benefit of hindsight, and with the blessing of time, we can confidently say that time has vindicated the good old Professor Nana Opoku Agyeman. The energy sector is currently challenged with indebtedness to the IPPs. Are you able to tell this committee?
Honorable, that will be the last one I'll admit for you. This is about your faith.
Are you able to tell this committee exactly how much the government of Ghana owes the IPPs? And what are your thoughts on cost-reflective tariff? Do you think that it is time for Ghana to move into a cost-reflective tariff regime?
Yes.
Thank you. The IPP debts are accruing every day. Like I said, every day they are accruing. Whether we even use it or we don't, because of the nature of the contract that was signed, every year we have to pay over $500 million more for excess capacity, let alone the ones that we are consuming. So they are consuming, the debts are increasing. So I cannot point a figure now, but there's a reconciliatory process where the debts are assessed and they are cleared. As to cost-reflective tariff, the meaning is very interesting. What do we mean? Like I said, in the West African sub-region, we have the highest energy cost. In the West African sub-region, we have the highest energy cost. So my issue is that why don't we still, or why are the producers claiming we have a non-cost reflective tariff? This is a matter where we have to sit down with PRC, if I'm giving the nod, to unbundle the whole tariff and see what is missing so that we can really make effective changes.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. Honorable nominee, congratulations. We are proud of your success story as the Education Ministry. And even though the Energy Ministry is a significantly different sector, I'm very confident you will excel. Now, the PRC, which is my first question, is by law an independent institution. I mean, its independence is guaranteed by law. Do you think that the independence of the PRC has impacted positively on the ordinary Ghanaian?
I would say that when you hear that the automatic tariff adjustment is not being used, and still we have one of the highest energy prices in the sub-region, or in the region, or West African region, then I can say that Ghanaians expect more from PRC than they are getting.
Honorable nominee, even though you are not at the ministry yet, I'm very sure you may have looked at a number of power purchase agreements entered into by various governments. I don't know what assessment you draw from this, and if there are any lessons that we can learn from in the face of a number of power purchase agreements we've entered into. And you and I know that recent ones have generated huge concerns, controversies, and debate. Are there any lessons learned? And going forward, how should we position ourselves as a country entering into such agreement?
Thank you. In the last 20 years, we have acute power shortages about twice, under President Kufuor and under President Mahama. Okay. Under President Kufuor, when there was acute power shortage, government decided to buy the engines or turbines and also to buy the fuel. So it became like an intervention. So the costs after the shortage, when it was solved, was not translated to Ghanaians in the form of long power purchase agreement. Under President Mahama, for one reason or the other, because of the protracted nature of the power cuts a lot of PPAs were signed. But the problem with signing PPAs when you are in dire need is that the seller will get this pound of flesh. And that is why we got saddled with PPAs we cannot pay, or take or pays that we are saddled with. And that's why we only have to negotiate to bring it back to a take and pay situation to relieve the ordinary Ghanaian. That is the difference.
Honorable Novni, renewables. I'm sure you are aware of the passage of the Renewable Act, the master plan relative to renewable energy. And if you look at the Act, there's a strong call for the establishment of the Renewable Authority. I'm not one of those who believe in just establishment of institutions, but to be able to make it effective and practically relevant. What will you do to ensure that we don't just establish the authority as prescribed by the Act, but we make it relevant and renewable energy indeed becomes a center stage in the scheme of things in your administration when giving the nod?
Thank you. I would have to study the Act very well, because Parliament also, in the latter days, also passed an Amendment Act to build Power Authority, giving them the power to do renewables and clean energy. We Power Authority or Volta River Authority, because they have acquired large surface areas of river bodies, can translate into renewables more quickly. So we'll look at what we need to do else, that we need a new renewable authority. But like I said, I'm not concerned with the law. I'll look at the law. Maybe the law is giving incentives for people to come into that industry. So we'll look at it and implement the law as quickly as possible.
Honorable Nabini, the Convention of Waste to Energy has gained, even beyond the frontiers of Africa, I mean globally, has gained a lot of attention. And in our country, if you do a casual analysis, we have a number of landfill sites, and then we have tons of biodegradable waste. Have you thought about conversion of waste into energy, or if it has crossed your mind?
Thank you. Yes, it has crossed my mind. Yes, I've dealt with some players who wanted to do waste to energy about 10, 15 years ago in this country. But we do have some problems and challenges. Our landfill sites or dump sites, we don't segregate our waste. So you cannot necessarily go and excavate and put into incinerators and give you the energy you want. So one thing that goes with these is the separation of the waste. So we have biodegradable elements that can be fit into the waste plants, and we have things that you don't want it to go into an incinerator or anything that is combustible. So we have to look at it. Then you come to the cost of the generation. We are here talking about 14 cents we sell our energy, and it's becoming a problem. And when you look at the mathematics or the arithmetics of it, they come with high cost per watt. And so you wonder how you're going to feed it into the system. Wonder how you're going to feed the system. So because you have to do that, then you have to have a lot of generation mix with some very, very low cost generators and some medium cost generators, so that you can pepper that one with some 1 or 2 high cost generators. Or else it becomes, you can't get enough figure. It becomes a problem.
Honorable Chair, this will be my last one. I recall in one of the State of the Nation addresses of the President, he had intimated the need for us as a nation to resort to the usage of solar panels. And he had asked that the presidency, the ministries, a number of government institutions and setups could start with that. I've seen signs of that. When you are given the nod, is it something you consider or you will consider as a priority? And then again, if you look at tertiary institutions and their consumption of power, can we use solar as a means of maybe engaging in off-grid power generation so that we can conserve energy for our drive towards industrialization?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When you want to embark on large-scale solar electrification, there are a few things that you have to think about. You generate and you transmit through the normal wires. You generate and store. Or for individual households, what do you do? Most large-scale farms in those areas suffer from, when it's in the evening, is all off. So it is not one that will support the grid 24/7. So you use it, especially in the daytime when you can have it, and the nighttime is off. So you should have normal capacity to be able to supply your industrial needs in your country. So people have started thinking about hyperbolic solar energy systems, where you concentrate the energy, you use it to heat or steam water, and use it as a boiler to propel turbines and make it more efficient. But there are other areas where some countries like Germany have done very well. That is the household use, where every household will turn its rooftop, just like the president wanted to do, will turn its rooftop into a mini solar receptacle. The problem is that the solar battery, the batteries to store the energies are extremely expensive, with a high waste ratios. Because you store 100 watts and you can probably get at best 45, the cost of the battery. So what has happened is that people have developed meters, smart meters, for these houses, where when you generate the energy, you feed it into the national grid when you are not using it. So you can just imagine residential houses all over Ghana, or new affordable estates. You can put solar panels on, and they can feed it directly to the system while we are at work. The problem is with that is that the electricity distributor is the one who's going to lose out most. So there has to be an incentive for that distributor to also buy that energy from you through your reverse meter. And always is the ratio of you generating the power in your house, feeding it into his transmission lines. And when your lights are out, or sun is out, and you need electricity from the transmitter, the national distributor, how much does it charge? So people are talking about, I know that ECG at one time, and we have had these pilots in the country, ECG was talking about, when I sell mine for you with 1 cedi, I'll buy yours at 60 pesos, which is not encouraging people. So we have to, and I know PRC is doing some work on it, we have to come to a sensible sharing of that resource, or the tariff for that, to enable a lot more individuals to take up solar in this country. Thank you.
Just one follow-up. I must commend you. I'm just impressed with your share of knowledge of the industry. Now, I could have agreed more with you when you spoke to the cost of the batteries. Now, Indonesia is a country that is known to be doing very well in terms of development of solar panels and the batteries associated and other accessories. Would you consider getting Ghanaians maybe scholarship to go and understudy what is happening there and possibility of employing this into our system, especially where the cost of the battery is so impactful on the total cost of solar and panel. Would you like to consider this when giving the nod?
Chair, definitely, if you know, there's a car, a mommy truck that are written at the back is travel and see. If you don't travel, you don't know what is going on in the areas you want to develop. And definitely, with such examples, we have to travel and see and come and apply whatever. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable nominee, can you prove to this committee that ex-President Mahama Ba's people to the Independence Square and paid them to fake collapsing during the SHS placement? Can you prove to this committee?
Sorry, I thought he answered the same thing. He said no. It's not the same question. Then I didn't get your details. Can I be sure?
I didn't get the answer.
Well, you heard him, right? I didn't get the question. I thought he was repeating the other question. That's why I was asking.
Can the nominee prove to this committee that ex-President Mahama Ba's people to the Independence Square and paid them to fake collapsing during the SHS placement?
No, I can't.
Does the nominee therefore think that in his inability to prove this before this honorable committee, he owes the ex-president an apology for that?
No, I don't.
First, Honorable, did you say that of the ex-president?
That was the radio discussion I explained in the earlier question. Yes. And I did say that, yes, I said those things. And I did say that, and the Honorable Haruna came, do I regret? I said, yes, I did, in that discussion.
Mr. Chairman, if the honorable nominee is unable to prove that assertion to this honorable committee, will he be kind enough to tell us, because this is a committee of parliament, why he is unable to provide us with that proof?
The information that I relied on, the sources, I will not be able to bring to this House. That is why I cannot prove.
You said information you relied on is not what?
The information that I relied on to speak, I cannot make available here. That's why I cannot prove to this House.
And you cannot verify for yourself?
That is why I apologize.
Yes. In that case, would it not be fair to just withdraw and apologize?
That's why I apologized in the beginning.
Honorable Chair, did he withdraw and apologize? I didn't hear that. No, I didn't hear that. I didn't hear him withdraw and apologize.
He withdrew, but I thought it was the same thing.
Mr. Chairman,
but you are saying it's not the same thing.
Mr. Chairman, he said, I will say I could have said it another way. That is not a withdrawal and apology, with all due respect. I could have said it another way. Means that there is something that he holds on to, which he believes to be true, which he could have said another way. That is not a withdrawal and an apology, with all due respect, Mr. Chairman.
Honorable Minister, it's in your court.
Mr. Chair, I actually said that I'll use different words, and I do regret. I said
it. Honorable nominee, just, you see, withdraw and apologize if you cannot prove it, and then we make progress.
Honorable Leader,
So
you
repeat
did
it for-
say, you
repeat
did
it
say, and
for-
you asked me to do something, and I did it.
And I say,
Yes, if those words are used, hurt him, I do withdraw and apologize for it.
Mr. Chairman, I think that the nominee should get something straight. It's not about emotion and whether I am hurt or not. It's about the facts, and it's about the respect that we should attach, that you urge us every time to attach to each other, and especially people who have served in high office. It is not about me and whether I'm happy or not. But I'll move on, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, it is not, it is said that it is not everything that is right that is fair. I have a performance audit report of the Auditor General on the administration of scholarships by GetFund. The Chairman, in this audit report are names of beneficiaries of the scholarship that was extended by GetFund. I have captured as number 38, Matthew Opoku Prempeh, Harvard University, Senior Executive in National and International Security, $11,200 US. And then you have $12,000 US. That's for living allowances. Tuition is $11,200 and living allowance $12,800 US. Mr. Chairman, did the nominee assess this scholarship at the time?
The report is of which year?
The report is, I'll quickly get to it. GetFund Secretariat, the Chairman, I am unable to point to the exact year now, but I think the report says that this was accessed in 2016, I think.
go to the cover page. Yes, the cover page. You should be able
No, the cover page is Performance Audit Report of the Auditor General on the Administration of Scholarships by GetFund. And this was submitted in 2019. Yes, I'm talking about, I mean, this is public knowledge, Mr. Chairman. And the scholarship was accessed, I think, in 2016. But my question is, Mr. Chairman, did he access this at a time that he was Member of Parliament, considered to be a privileged position, at the expense of very poor and needy people that he represents in his constituency? Mr. Chairman, that's my question.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, members of this House, in fact, the GetFund administrator at that time did a press conference on this and said that he doesn't want to mention names, and he did it for both sides of the House. On that particular course, I went with another member who was in the majority side. I do not regret. It was not done for me alone, and getting the same opportunity, I'll do it again. I did not. The GetFund also has established that the allowance was not 12,000 as it was said. He also did the whole press conference that the House can assess. It is not true of those prices.
Mr. Chairman, like I promised my question with the saying that it is not everything that is right that is fair. But it is okay.
I'll give you one more chance.
He doesn't regret it. The Chairman, when he was Minister of Education, the nominee was Minister for Education. The Education Ministry came to this House to seek approval to award a contract to Bluegrass Group Limited to present or to procure mathematical sets for students who were to write BEC. Mr. Chairman, the cost of one was $75 according to our handsets. eBay sells it for £24. That's an equivalent of $33.25. West, Mr. Chairman, the company delivered the mathematical sets at a time the students had almost finished writing the exams. I would want to find out from the nominee, first of all, if Mr. Kojo Daku Mensah, aka Onassis, who is the CEO of Blue Grass Group Limited, is personally known to him, and if he is aware that on 29th of January 2021, he was picked up by the NIB, and if that was related to this contract, and whether, upon reflection, he believes that this contract really served the purpose for which Parliament gave the approval for it to be entered to. I thank
your whole set of questions put in one. You have already done 5 and you put 5 in one. Yes,
Thank you. Mr. Chair, fact number 1, it is not $75, it's 75 cedis. Fact number 1. It's not $75, it's 75 cedis.
Let's be clear.
Fact number 2.
What is not $75?
He said that a cost of one
set is 75.
And I'm saying it's not $75, it's 75 cedis. Why? I have the Public Procurement Authority letter approving that contract before I go in. It said that we convey approval to the Ministry of Education to use the single source procurement method to engage Masters Bluegrass Group Limited for the supply of 853,009 mathematical sets of units of Catholic scientific mathematical instruments at an estimated cost of 63,975,675,000 Ghana cedis. Contract is in Ghana cedis, it's not in dollars. It's 75 Ghana cedis per unit. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, I want to go give a background. And I have copies here I can tender. On 6th December 2018, 6th December 2018, I was written to as the Minister of Education introducing bluegrass by a company called Transnational. Mr. Chair, number 2, I don't know the name of the person he mentioned. I don't know him. Came to me with a letter that they are introducing Catholic scientific mathematical instruments as an examination, the Speaker, I hope we listen, as an examination compliant mathematical tool that provides an all-in-one functionality of a mathematical set and a non-programmable scientific calculator. It went to say that examination malpractice influence candidate performance in examinations and render scores and grades obtained as such examinations unreliable. That's a threat to credibility at our national examinations. Went on. Mr. Chairman, I then, on receipt of this letter, with a letter from WAEC as well, which I have here, which I'll give to the committee if it's so like. Wrote to the Ghana.
If I nominate just the letter from WAEC, the date.
I'll give all the dates. It's every year. How to go.
You can go on with you can go on with other references, but when you are done,
so I did write to the Ghana Education Service That is a board member of WAIC International and also has students who are writing the exam. So I wrote to Ghana Education Service and they responded. The WAIC letter, after this letter, 18th December, 6th December 2018, the WAIC letter was 5th February 2019. And the Ghana Education Service letter, that the WAIC letter was attached, came to me on the 12th of February 2019. This is what the WAIC letter, when I got this letter and wrote to the Director General of Ghana Education Service, he, the Director General, wrote to WAIC to inquire about this arrangement. And WAIC wrote back on the 5th of February 2019. Dear Professor Opoku Abankwa, provision of customized WAIC mathematical sets. At the retreat organized by the headquarters of the chief government nominees of member countries on council in November 2018 in Lagos, Nigeria, the issue of examination malpractice was discussed extensively, and the members, among other decisions, agreed that the Secretariat should formulate a policy requiring candidates to use only customized WAIC mathematical sets, in addition to the outright ban on wristwatches in the examination halls with effect from 2020 school candidate examinations, and directed that the registrar to formally inform chief government nominees on the policy on customized WAIC mathematical sets, giving justifiable reasons for the formulation of this policy. The Secretariat is currently drafting, so it went on and on and on and on. WAIC subsequently wrote that they developed this math set with Confil Transnational Limited. I have that letter too here. So, Mr. Speaker, the Director General, Mr. Chair, the Director General of Ghana Education Service then wrote to me on the 12th of February 2019, reference to the December 6th letter from Confil, addressed to the Honourable Minister and duly referred to the Ghana Education Service for our comment. Management recommends the procurement of CAPEC scientific mathematical instruments to use in WAIC examinations, as this falls in line with WAIC recommendations and requirements. Please see WAIC letter attached, titled Provision of Customized WAIC Mathematical Set, reference. Chair, after that, we did write to the Chief Procurement Officer, Chief Executive of the Public Procurement Authority, on the 12th March.
Chama, just 1 minute. The Director General of GS who signed, just give me the name for the record.
The Director General himself signed it.
What was the name at that time? Who was the Director General? I just want the name.
Opoku Amankwa. Opoku Amankwa.
Thank you, that's fine.
He is still the Director General.
Okay.
So we wrote to PPA seeking permission, because that time.
In any case, don't worry. The questions he asked you.
Mr. Speaker, if you indulge me, this is a matter.
1 minute. The questions he asked you. You know the person?
No.
He says no. You know that he has been arrested?
No.
Okay. What was the other one? The price has been answered. But, yes. What?
Whether it arrived late, the delivery was done late, and whether it achieved the purpose for which Parliament gave that approval for that sole source.
Mr. Chairman, this is not a matter you can go and buy anywhere. This is not a mass set you can buy anywhere.
Don't worry. When was it
Mr. Chair, if it's not affecting you, you can sweep it just easily. Yesterday, the same question was asked to my deputy, and he even talked about why the mathematical sets were delayed because of the COVID time. Because we intended to procure it for the examination, for which it was the only mathematical set that was going to be allowed, which is in the WAIC letter from 2020. And so we started the procurement early enough to be able to get the mathematical set instruments. The mathematical set, like my deputy said, my deputy minister for 4 years has been the chairman of the entity tender committee. And he knows very well that the mathematical set, and they wrote letters to show why they cannot deliver in time. Subsequently, they delivered part, we paid part, and they will do the rest, and we'll pay. Mr. Speaker, that is why I'm saying that we wrote to the Public Procurement Authority with the WAIC letter, with the Director General of Ghana Education's letter, and Cornfield's letter as well, on the 12th March 2019. Yes, Mr. Speaker, I have to put it on record. And then, on 13th May,
Mr. Chairman, it arrived late. Did it achieve the purpose for which Parliament gave approval for that sole source to be done?
it came late because of COVID, and we have said it. It came late, and the marset is not a disposable marset. We intended, look, there are only about 400 to 500,000 students who wrote the exams, or 330-something thousand students who wrote. Why are we buying 853? Because we are buying it for every student. It's not financial loss. We are buying for every student in secondary school. We are buying it for all the years in secondary school. Yes, so that the child can use that.
I think you've offered a sufficient explanation. Yes, Chief Word.
Because me, I want time to that time.
Just insinuate.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know why my colleague opposition already started harassing me. And the chairman himself is stretching himself. Maybe I tell, go and take fufu and come.
Honorable Mutaka,
Mr. Chairman, my colleague, the nominee, in this, there's no colleagues. The nominee designates earlier in an answer to a question said, we pay more than anyone within the sub-region, in referring to electricity tariffs. Did I hear you say that?
Yes, please.
Do you have any source to back that? Any source to back what you said?
Oh, yes, the PRC is a source you can check.
I have the African Development Bank. African Development Bank. That did the survey. I can forward it to you. And Ghana is the 4th cheapest in West Africa. The end user tariff by African Development for the whole of the sub-region. Will you want to consider that vis-a-vis what the PURC have told you when you get to the office?
It depends upon the year of the report and what they are really comparing, what source of transmission they are comparing, and what reflective tariff they are comparing.
Well, usually they will be talking about the end user tariff. That's how much the citizens are paying, whether commercial or domestic. And then they will say, this is how much the end user. So the end user clearly indicates that we are the 4th, what do you call it? Maybe I will just show you the details. The lowest is Nigeria, followed by Guinea, then Burkina Faso, then Ghana in West Africa. At least this source from African Development Bank. Come again?
For what you mentioned, Ghana is the highest.
No, I was mentioning from the lowest up. So maybe you may have to compare this with what PURC is telling. Because, Mr. Minister, if ours is the most expensive, how could we have exported? Because we are exporting some to our neighbors, right?
The export of power is different. Even in Ghana, the tariffs we give mines or big users is very different from tariffs we give residential and non-residential. So you have a hotel in the highest bracket because we also grade our units. The 40, you have lifetime tariff that is 0, then up to 50, then 51 to 100, then 100, and it increases to a stage that you get even over 20 cents or 20 cents per kilowatt. So it's a graduated tariff as well.
But I hope you take note and
and check what PURs are giving. And also an earlier answer to a question, you were talking about the penetration rate, the assets, electricity assets, the coverage, electricity assets in Ghana. And did I hear you talk about 83%?
Minority Leader and the questioner from the back, that talked about 83%.
And you agree with them?
That is also reflected in some of the books that we have.
If you look at the budget for 2020, paragraph 818, it talks about 84.32. 84.32.
A 20 years budget.
2020.
We are still doing SHEP.
No, that's what I'm saying. So the 83 is below even what was reported for 2020, and we are in 2021. So, and then I don't know whether you've heard about the ECG strike in Hohoi. The workers, the ECG workers strike in Hohoi as a result of the arrest of some of their workers, technical guys, when they went around to remove the post-paid meters that was installed by your predecessor, and then he got the police to arrest them, and the whole workers of ECG went on strike. I don't know whether you've heard this.
No, please.
If given the nod, will you take steps to get this situation normalized in Hawaii so that it doesn't disrupt the supply to domestic homes?
Certainly, I'll look at the cause of the strike. Yeah.
You, in an answer to a question, you were talking about the take or pay that you work very hard to get almost all of them to take and pay. Is there any of the take or pay under the elsewhere Mahama administration that you know has been renegotiated to take and pay?
I am told some agreed to take and pay and lower PPAs, but they have not been effectualized.
Oh, yeah, I didn't get the answer.
I said I heard that some have agreed at negotiation, because I also said that they are still negotiating with all the players.
Okay, so there's none that has yet been renegotiated yet.
Yes.
Any 3 to 5 key things that you will do in these 4 years, if given the nod, to contribute towards the country's achievement target of 10% renewable energy by 2030?
Thank you. Most of the laws and the legislations and the incentives have been passed. Is our ability to get players to come into the sector. And the reluctance was because of the cost of the generated electricity. The cost. I know that the last time which is the which has negotiated one recently, the cost was about 9 cents or something, and it starts from 14 cents. So when the cost is high, nobody will sign a PPA with you because of our lessons of high cost. But I know that in certain countries, solar systems have come down to 3-4 cents, and that becomes very economical as well for off-takers, for ECG and things to be off-takers. So we'll push the incentives in that sector, even for ordinary households, and make sure that people then can invest in it to contribute to our 10%.
So what will you clearly do? What program will you clearly do? I mean, apart from aside what the BUI Power and VRA are doing to encourage solar usage, because as you know, most facilities, hospitals, schools, and as you may know, in both my houses in Accra and Kumasi, I've been using solar for almost 10 years. And it pays. What clearly will you do, if given the nod as minister, to encourage institutions, households, to be able to afford solar, so that we can be able to move fast towards the 10% renewable energy target?
The easiest way to do it is to convert most of the solar tops, of most of our rooftops to solar, especially in our institutions, like the secondary schools. Now we have a pilot project with the University of Ghana for 2 megawatts. But you can understand that secondary schools don't consume a lot of power. Their power is only for reading or prep time in the classroom. Most secondary schools have night outs. At 10 o'clock, every student should sleep and wake up at 5. So if we can do 2 things in secondary schools, change to LED bulbs and then put solar panels on, most secondary schools can easily get off the grid. Most secondary schools, and add reverse meters. If we can let households, those who are building, real estate agents, can give them incentives of bringing the solar panels for free at no cost. Now solar panel prices have come so much down, and we can add reverse meters to it. Like I said, PRC is already on that case, trying to negotiate a settlement rate. If we can get that through, then it's in the interest of every person. And then government too should provide subsidized solar panels with reverse meters for houses to be able to engage and get to our 10% of our climate change agenda very soon.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Very well. Honorable, do you still want to ask a question? You're operating.
Yeah,
all right, very well. Honorable Majority Leader.
Chairman, I should thank you for the opportunity, and to the nominee. You are now moving away from the Ministry of Education to the Ministry of Energy. Now, Free Senior High School has been touted generally as your success and success of President Akufo-Addo. Now, can you make a distinction between investment in human capital and investment in literacy and numeracy, given that historically those who pass from SSS up, you never have an achievement of even 60% in the last 2 decades. So make a distinction. What is the nature of the investment we are making into education today, and what are the challenges of the Free Senior High School program?
Thank you, Chair. In the early 2000s, Ghana decided that in order to increase its access for boy child and girl child into school, and considering that we were poor, Ghana decided to do some investments in basic education. Apart from building the schools, one of the huge investments they did in basic education was to remove costs. To remove costs, government then decided to introduce capitation grants and school feeding, albeit not every school, but in very poor, deprived areas. Chair, after government did this introduction, within a period of 3 years, our enrollment rates in basic schools was 100% for boys and girls. So the school feeding and the capitation that went to take away cost barriers allowed a lot more people to enter school. Government also decided to change school basic education from P6 to junior high school 3, meaning that students could stay in school for longer. And when you really check the dropout rates between P6 and JSS1, it is not that huge. So all the kids mostly were staying in school up to the free compulsory basic education for those that went. But we did see a drop between primary 6 and junior high school. But the drop from junior high school and senior high school was rather huge. We moved from an average of 500,000 in junior high schools to about 250 to 300,000 in senior high school year 1. So we dropped about 40%. And then by the time they finished senior high school, a further 22% also dropped off. So there was a huge drop in that. When we did the studies before starting the free senior high school, We realized that in those places where government was supporting with bursaries, not full fees, bursaries, the dropout rate, that for those who qualified to go to secondary school, only about 12.5% didn't take up the place. So if 100 people qualified.
So under free senior high school, are all textbooks, core and elective, provided for free by government?
All core textbooks are provided free by government.
What about elective?
For elective, we don't know, every year the numbers change. So we provide them as library books.
So elective subjects, government is not supporting students in
We are
free senior high
supporting
school.
students by providing them as library books in the school.
As what?
Library books in the school.
Library books.
Yeah.
Isn't it better if it was personal as in core books?
It could have been better, but you don't know.
In your handing over, even though you are leaving the ministry, couldn't you have recommended that as one of the things that you think that central government must examine forward? Because if you say free, and it's free only for core textbooks, they don't have electives. Some still struggle. Don't you see that as a challenge?
Mr. Chairman, even though it's a challenge, the solution that we have provided was a better way to ensure, because we didn't know the numbers. For the core subjects, government knew centrally the total numbers of students in all schools. For elective subjects, it depends. So what we did was to provide a stock of library and also improve our usage of libraries. Provide stock of elective subjects that the school undertakes in the library so that the students can borrow and use.
So, Chairman, I'll be questioning the nominee education and energy. Now, LNG to be procured by a thermal LNG company, and you are aware that the Ghana National Procurement Entity remains an off-taker. Ghana is in a position of advantage today with cheaper gas coming from 3 gas fields in Ghana, as well as the one we've contracted from Nigeria. If you get to the Ministry of Energy, will you work to reduce pressure on GNPC with this LNG procurement by the LNG company? Can't we rely on our own gas?
Mr. Chairman, once I've approved to go into the Ministry of Energy, we will sit down with the Ghana National Procurement Company and discuss why and the challenges to do with any LNG contract they have. Because it's not only them that have an LNG contract. The West Africa gas pipeline is also around, and we have to look at all that and what is best for Ghana.
In one of your answers, you said that Ghana has abundance of power. If the organic natural gas we have is enough to meet the current and projected IPP generation demand, do you think that...
Your question, please.
Do you think that our organic natural gas situation is good enough to meet the current and projected IPP generation demand?
Yes. For current demand, yes.
Or because you are not at that ministry?
For current demands, yes. For future demands, natural gas is a cleaner gas. And it will be in our interest to retool the whole system for everybody to use natural gas.
When you get to the Ministry of Energy as Minister for Energy, share with us what is your vision to ensure energy security for the Republic of Ghana? What will you do to ensure future energy security for Ghana?
To ensure that in our planning process, we don't start too late to add the necessary generation capabilities that we need at an affordable rate for Ghanaians to be able to use.
Now, when you are answering a question posed by the Honorable Muntaka, you know there is thermal and there is hydro. You are talking about independent power producers who are largely in the IPP sector. Are the rates the same?
Like I said, the rates are not the same. It even depends on the fuel you are using.
Do you appreciate the fact that much of what Ghana and what we've heard from Ministry of Finance, Ministers of Energy and others arguing every day that Ghana is paying for excess capacity. It is to be appreciated that many of those IPPs needed the guarantees from government in order to be bankable to secure the initiative for the purpose of the future.
I think I said that we contracted them at the time of scarcity, and we live with those contracts.
Do you see anything good about excess capacity in terms of independent power producers?
The nation itself must have a buffer, so that means the nation itself in the planning must have an excess capacity of about 20%.
What plans do you have for the petroleum subsector of the Ministry of Energy and to ensure that Ghana gets value for money for its oil resources?
Chairman, I'm not sure that our oil resources upstream are providing for our petroleum needs downstream as we speak, in the sense that all the crude that we have is exported, and we export petroleum products. So there's a disjunct in that. But the vision will be to have affordable petroleum products available at the right time for the Ghanaian.
Chairman, I come back to the take or pay. You are going to lead an industry which is cash heavy. Investment of 400, 500 million US dollars to 1 billion. And therefore, investors will need assurances of consistent and credible offtake as part of their security. Would you support, as part of a liberalized environment in the energy sector, assurances that you give these assurances to investors?
All governments have given assurances to investors in form of either letters.
So I'm suggesting that those who argue that Ghana is losing money because of excess power capacity must appreciate the need for bankability as an assurance to give security to those who want to invest heavily into those sectors. Do you share my view?
I share part of that view.
Chairman, the nominee in one of his answers to a question casually just referred to books. Ghana has done well. I should say that even in rural Tamale, we have achieved 100% capacity in some rural areas. But if you refer to budget statements, and I have copies from 2018, 2019, 2020, you would find the national electricity access rate increased from 83.24% in 2016 to 83.62% in 2018. That is not significant enough. Then, Chairman, if I still have your indulgence, I will quote from another year. So you have 83.62% and you now have 84%. There isn't any significant increase beyond 2%. Largely in the last 4 years, make a promise that you as minister will increase our energy access to the people of Ghana, and that you work towards the 100%.
As Minister of Energy, I work towards affordable universal power for all Ghanaians. Thank you.
Now, it is to be appreciated again that the Millennium Challenge Compact, every American president, from President Bush through Clinton, have had some initiative for Africa. And there was focus on the power sector, energy for Africa. Ghana benefited from the Millennium Challenge Compact, part of which was under President Kufuor. You had MEDA established. Primary focus essentially was agriculture. Now, the last compact was on energy. Will you privatize openly and transparently the ECG in order to improve its efficiency?
Chair, I did answer the question earlier that since President Kufuor, every president has gone for a privatization of ECG at different levels. But it is all from top-down privatization, to the extent that in the previous government, before President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the Millennium Challenge Compact had decided that we're going to privatize ECG at 80-20 rates. And now the Danko Akufo-Addo came to renegotiate it at 51-49 rates. But both didn't go through. So my point is that, yes, ECG needs some private sector participation. That is no question. But at which level? I believe that we have to sit back and strategize and see that where the losses are is where we have to privatize. Where the revenues are is where we have to privatize. And it is the last mile of ECG.
Thank you, Charles. There's some argument that to increase our value on the oil resources, which are not infinite, indeed, there's a World Bank report which says that by 2050, we may run out of it. Therefore, we have to make optimal use of our oil revenue. And there's argument for the metering. It has this other word, I can't pronounce it well, the meteorology word.
Petroleum.
Not the one with weather.
No, the one in
absolutely. So you understand. Yes. Will you want to take an initiative in that direction that guarantees value of money for Ghana's oil revenue?
I think that should be the first thing GRA should institute, Ghana Revenue Authority. Because if you don't know how much petrol you are putting in your tank, and there's no calibration, and the machine is just pumping, how much would you pay?
Together with the Honorable Leader of Government Business, I recall in 2015 your contributions to the Petroleum Revenue Management Act. If you have your copy, which aspect of that legislation do you want to see improved? Having learned from Norway, having learned from Nigeria, the way we have used our oil resources, some of it to support you to implement free senior high school, largely a consumable. What would you want to see change in our petroleum revenue management regime?
Maybe if I should stick to PIAC reports, then I would say more transparency in declaring what we are using the money for. The whole point of the Petroleum Management Act was to ensure that we can transparently account for the monies and what we are putting in, so that by the time our reserves run to zero, we can say that unlike gold and bauxite and diamond, for petroleum, this is how we utilize the money in these sectors. If I read PIAC report, probably we are not getting that, and we need to ensure more transparency in our accounting for our oil revenue.
Chairman, I assure you I'll be done in 2 minutes. Just before the November hours of the 7th Parliament, there was some request by then Minister for Energy, the Honorable Peter Amewu, to amend or review the Bui Authority Act in order to give them a mandate to do renewable energy. What will you do for better use of renewable energy resources of Ghana?
I did answer the question, probably not here. A colleague did ask the same question. The reason why it was important was that because of our climate agreements for climate change, you cannot by any stretch of mind go and cut so many hectares of land to build a solar farm. Nobody would probably agree. That's why if you check where big solar farms are being built, they are either on arid areas or areas that the land use is virtually zero. So there's a need to look at Ghana. Where can we put our solar system? And on the surfaces of the lakes, because we have huge lakes that can easily accommodate those solar panels. That is why the minister came to ensure that Buida, which is a peaking plant, would be able to do enough renewable solar there to be able to stabilize that plant, especially during the daytime, and also contribute to our 10% renewables that should be in the system, as agreed. Thank you.
Will you work to commercialize our natural gas resources for the benefit of the people of Ghana, and how?
It is imperative that we have to commercialize our natural gas resources. Mr. Chairman, what would it do for us? Cheaper energy from Atuabo to the users can ensure our industrialization take up. Actually, that is probably the quickest way for industrialization. If we get gas prices to our trouble at good rates, Mr. Speaker, we can get cheap energy to be able to fire Opoku, ensure the refinery for bauxite, the iron ore, the glass factory, the cement factory. In fact, for industrialization, you need steel. Ghana, we have iron and we have manganese. You need glass. We have a Opoku glass factory. We need cement. We have a lot of cement factories. And we need bauxite. We have all the combination of this from their natural state to their value additional state. And it's left with the right energy at the right price to be able. Then we have the fertilizer plants. Then we have the plastic industry. That all can come on board with the right price of gas.
Your party, the New Patriotic Party, albeit in 2016, was promising we'll end the suffering, and then we'll make electricity.
Promising what?
We'll end the suffering. If you refer to your 2016 manifesto, there's a page where you have a list of about 16 to 21 items. We'll end the suffering of teachers, end the suffering of Ghanaians, and reduce. I'm interested in electricity and COVID. Now it's become, because we are not able to adjust to the depreciation of the cedi, the depreciation of the cedi against the US dollar. You've seen some increases in petroleum prices. Is there a relationship between increased prices and ending the suffering of the Ghanaian people?
I'm not sure it's a direct relationship, but there certainly is a relationship. If prices of fuel products and energy products are increasing at a faster rate than the pockets or the checkbooks or the pay pockets of the ordinary Ghanaian, then you are not decreasing suffering.
Chairman, the nominee is outgoing Minister for Education. You introduced the traffic lights of red, gold, green for students in senior high school. With statistics available to you from the Girl Child Education Unit of the GES, do you find a correlation between increased pregnancy of girls in senior high school and the management of the double track system?
There is no such relationship.
Are you aware that about 1,500 females are reported pregnant by the records of the Girl Child Education Unit of the GS, arising out of the long duration of the young girls having to stay at home?
I thought I read it as a result of the COVID staying at home for a long period.
Chairman, can the nominee make a definite policy statement? Hindsight, given COVID, what have you left behind as advice for the Minister for Education, noting that many Ghanaian people are not able to access basic education, unlike other privileged children in privileged schools? What is your policy footnotes whilst walking away from that ministry in these extraordinary times?
Thank you, Chair. Yesterday, the Honorable Minority Leader asked a profound question, just like he's just done in another way. And on that, yesterday, he was talking about ICT in respect of COVID. And Mr. Chairman, I can assure you that because of COVID and because of decisions the government had taken, and then COVID made it precipitous, we have now in Ghana online education supported by the telcos for free. The Ghana Education Service has uploaded a lot of structures for free, and that free goes even into all the Ghana library centers and the ICT centers. We have online radio program, we have online TV program for schools. For secondary schools, we have put all the materials online for secondary school education. We are cascading it down to affect junior high schools and primary schools. We have 5 permanent recording studios that are recording daily on education for us. When you go to the northern part of the country, precisely there I'm interested, there's an on-radio program that is supporting parents over 9 languages to assist children at home. We have printed manuals to support children's education even at home. The COVID experience has ensured that Ghana is positioning itself for blended education. What do I mean by blended education? Education that is shared between the classroom and at home using ICT resources. We have an international digitization project that is bringing development of smart tablets and telephones and TVs into the country.
Okay, Chairman, you won't be there again. I'm just saying that.
It is all in the notes.
I look forward to a Ghana when children in Palugu or in young Dachambele can access basic education on TV.
It is there now.
It is where?
It is on Ghana TV.
When were you in Palugu to know whether children have access to that? But Chairman,
that one I can't answer.
Okay. Chairman, I'm at the tail end of my submission. Now, responsibility allowance for teachers, did you stop it? Teachers' responsibility allowance, did you stop it? And is it the case that teachers who have gone on steady leave since 2019 have not been promoted?
Thank you. Responsibility allowance is totally different from training allowance. So let me take responsibility allowance. Only 9 categories of teachers, 9, enjoy responsibility allowance. Heads of units, assistant headmasters, housemasters, religious or teachers, religious teachers, form masters, enjoy responsibility allowance. Immediately a teacher is promoted, he might not go into that same responsibility as he was when he was getting that responsibility allowance.
So it's true that you stopped responsibility.
Nobody has stopped responsibility allowance. That's why if you take a back seat, I'll just explain.
I'll take a seat.
Opoku Prempeh was the form master for Form 2 in Prempeh College and was receiving responsibility allowance that goes with that position. Opoku Prempeh has been promoted, but it's not a form teacher again. That Form 2 or form teacher responsibility allowance does not accrue to Opoku Prempeh again. There are only 9 categories. And if you are not in that category because of transfer, because of promotion, or because of something else, you don't qualify.
Steady leave since 2019?
No, not since 2019. That has been the norm all these years. That has been all these years.
Now, finally, Charles, the Conference of Heads of Assisted Schools have not been particularly happy with the government decision and policy to centralize the procurement of food, which used to be their domain. What's your view on that?
But what food? There are 2 types of food, Mr. Chairman.
The quality of food. You remember their last conference they held, they issued a very strong statement expressing disquiet about the quality of food which was supplied by the entity, the Buffer Stock Company, in a charge statement. What have you done about it? What have you said about it in your handing over notes to get improvement in the quality of food?
Please, can I answer it? After that statement, the whole executive of Charles came to recant that statement in my office. I don't need to put it out.
But I'm right. I read a statement from Charles.
Yes, you're right. That's why I said, can you be patient? Let me explain. Since time immemorial, till these hardships bore Ghana down, every secondary school was supplied by Food and Distribution Corporation or PAMSCAT Secretariat, especially for non-perishable foods. Because we have to buy in quantity to get the prices stable and supply. In fact, that was a suggestion by a National Association of Domestic Business and Matrons to the Ministry of Education. That was a specific suggestion. So what does buffer stock do? Buffer stock exists to supply the food and ensure the quantity. And if you recall recently, every school was given a loading scale. Every school was given a loading scale. Quantity, quality, timeliness. It is only the head of the school that can request the food from buffer stock. And when the food arrives, it's the head of school that decides to accept or not based upon these three things. So it is not buffer stock that supplies less quality food. It doesn't happen that way, Mr. Chairman. It doesn't happen that way.
All right, Chairman, my last is just a comment, and is to when the Honorable Blakwa and Suhini were questioning you, and I'll look for the particular article to share with you. I was not particularly happy with your mood because scrutiny of this nature, as observed by one congresswoman, is to look at knowledge of subject matter, IQ, temperament, and service to the Ghanaian people. What they sought to do was that in the past, maybe you call it exuberance, you probably before assuming office must have had your own view about who you succeeded and others. But I noticed that you are not particularly happy and you are finding it difficult to retract even when it was necessary. You don't need to comment on it. It's personal advice. My mother said that each morning I should pray for my tongue. So I'll leave it there. Learn to pray for your tongue and learn to manage your mood and temperament, because there's some potential ahead of you as a young person. I don't think that we should be using those strong words. I mean, in the view of Professor Kwe, the political class, you want to say something about a former head of state, a former minister of state, and we use language that when the public disrespect us, we wonder who are sold as cheap to the public. So pray for your tongue. You don't need to respond to it, but I just think that you should be able to manage it, and you didn't need to be provoked.
Thank you, Minority Leader. I take the advice for all of us. Thank you.
All right. You're no longer at the Ministry of Education, so I forgot to advise the Honorable. One of my classmates who has just retired as a headmaster drove to my house and just came to tell me that the food we supply to the secondary schools, more than half, I don't want to use more than half is taken. More than half is creamed by people in authority in the school. I mean, he was retiring and he felt like confessing to us. So probably you would tell your successor if there's any way of looking at how they manage that. They should look at it.
Yes, they have a standing food committee, and for the second time, they've reduced the portions that go to the school because of your particular suggestions, and so they monitor it everywhere. Thank you very much.
Very well. Thank you for attending upon the House.
Look inside.
You will hear from us later. You are discharged. Honourable members, the committee is adjourned till Monday at 10 o'clock in the morning.
10:30.